So you want more? I'll keep going. Um, this is Gay Topics. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, the only host to bring you the latest gay and lesbian headlines and breaking news. However, I'm going to change that. On YouTube, my gay topics are personal and revealing and dramatic and stunning and disturbing, but it's my life, and I am a gay man. This is how I've lived my life. These are stories, true stories, actual events that have happened in my life that I am going to reveal. Some of them are very painful, but I need these stories to be told because no one is listening. And I need these stories to be shown visually as they are being told because I want you to see how much pain and suffering and agonizing torture I have been going through my entire life. No, I'm not being dramatic. I've had a really hard life, and it's only getting worse. I'm a 50-year-old out of work, former porn star, veteran, sexual abuse survivor, ward of the state, victim, victim, a victim no one's ever heard of, a victim story that no one's ever heard of, a victim that doesn't exist, their voice is unheard and forgotten or ignored. That victim is me, Kenny Cruz. Going forward, this is now GayTopix Confessions. I use GayTopix on Instagram to promote the daily headlines and breaking news. But on my YouTube channel, as things have gone on recently through my lifetime and personal revelations I've made, I think that more or less this should be my personal page and my story, my confession. These stories I'm about to tell you have all happened to me as a gay man. A gay man in New York City. Please enjoy. Please stay tuned because it's only going to get worse. It's just me and the camera. So there's a lot to be told and a lot to be said. Why it's just me and the camera. I'm alone. And I feel these confessions need to be told because sooner or later, no one's going to know who I am. No one knows who I am now. So, after such circumstances may occur or happen, whatever may happen, I'm glad I have my receipts. And these receipts will prove and give me the justice I deserve and the legacy I deserve and the legacy anyone human deserves. Let's talk moms. Moms. First and foremost, when we only get one mom, you only get one mom. Some of us like them and some of us don't, and some of us we get along with them and some of us don't. But I realized as a grown man, we didn't get along with our mothers as we were teenagers. And but to me it was beyond that. It was before that. My mother was a horrible woman. A horrible woman. What she did to me was beyond anything, or any child, I should say, should ever have to endure. And it's reprehensible that she hasn't been convicted or caught, or any other ones that I'm about to tell you were convicted or caught. They all got away with murder. They all got away with what they did. And what they did was considered a Class A felony. And guess who their victim was? Me. Many people may say, oh, I'm playing the victim, but how can I play a victim when I am a victim? You're not living in my shoes. You don't experience what I experienced. You can't say I'm playing something that I'm not actually visually displaying or presenting to you to play. I'm telling a story, telling you something that happened to me, an actual event that happened to me, and I'm not playing anything. I'm just trying to explain to you why, or understand why things are the way they are to me and why my life is this way. So many people have know me from being a porn star, especially in the gay community. Yes, I am a former porn star, but I've had a life before that. And as I said, I'm talking about my mom, so we're going to start there. Again, these are confessions. My mom. My mom had me and my twin sister from some random dude. I don't know. I suspect he was my neighbor because my neighbor has the exact same name, but he's now dead. He would eventually become my foster father, which I found very odd as well. But he, she had an affair, and he got her pregnant, and she gave birth, but she didn't tell my father. And my father was the guy who I thought was my father, my biological father. And we looked nothing like my two older brothers. Me and my sister looked nothing like them. Nothing like them. Nothing at all. He knew instantly. In fact, I'm more than certain they did DNA testing and everything, but still being a man and the good man that he was, he still provided for my mother and allowed, us to call him daddy. And we called him daddy. And she cheated on him again. But that time I was 7 years old and she had enough, and well, he had enough, I should say, and he had so much like how can you do this again? I gave you an opportunity, and now I have no choice but to leave. And he left, and our home was essentially broken. But when I was 4, maybe 5, my mom said that I was in school learning about fire safety and playing with matches. And I was showing her with matches. One, as a mother, why would you let your son show you anything to do with fire? So that's a question there that I have going on as I tell the story. Please follow me. I'm trying to be transparent, and so you can see what actually is happening. So, one, as a mother and a parent figure, you should never allow your child to play with matches. That's the number one rule. But she said I was showing her how to play with the matches, and one of the matches flew onto the refrigerator, and the refrigerator explodes and sets up a fire. A third degree fire, third alarm fire. There was so much smoke and fire everywhere. I find it odd that a single match, like if I'm a kid, I'm playing with it and I'm going to flick it. And I flick the match and it would set a refrigerator on fire. That's just forensically impossible. That can't seem to have happened. And she said the refrigerator went up in flames and the police came and she blamed me because I was playing with matches. But again, I don't recall playing with matches. I don't. If I knew about fire safety, why would I even be playing with matches? I don't understand and how a single flame could light up a refrigerator. That's just utterly impossible. But she was she was having a nervous breakdown and essentially didn't she was having a nervous breakdown and didn't want the blame focused on her so she can allow herself to be in that mental grief and mental status while they provided her with medication. So she was only doing it and acting that way to get medication. The reason why she connected with my stepfather when I was 7 was because she had a secret addiction, a secret prescribed medication, addiction. And the addiction went on for years, unbeknownst to me and anyone else in the family, but the signs were there. And I'm going to tell you these signs because this is the story about moms, my mother, and what she did to me. So she said, this is so hard. She set the refrigerator on fire so she can get more medication, but in a way to try to set me on fire. I was caught up in the fire and they had to rescue me. And as before the time frame from the fire to when she met my stepfather, everything was fine because my father was there, but I began to notice that she was pushing herself further and further away from me. I remember peeing in my bed. Now, any psychologist will tell you, whenever a child pees in the bed, they're trying to tell you something. So I would pee in my bed, and I would hide the clothes and the sheets behind the radiator so she wouldn't know. And I gotten away with it for a while because all I wore was hand-me-downs and things that were found on the street, so I can easily replace them, and eventually it caught up to her and she started to find out, and when she found out, she made me wear the clothes to school, and they reeked of urine and wrinkled, and yet she still wasn't caught. She wasn't caught or even listened or addressed the problem. She didn't. She made the situation worse because not only were they attacking me for being gay, but now they had more of a reason why to come after me. So So they started saying pee pee and gay urine, gay piss. I was so, every single time. And she made me wear all of them. And there was a lot of clothes. And they still, and the teachers and administrators kept allowing her to do that as some form of punishment toward me. And I did stop peeing in the bed because I didn't want to wear those clothes again. So she had to buy new clothes, and she didn't. I continued to wear hand-me-downs. In fact, I remember going to school once with two left sneakers. Two left sneakers. When I was about 7, 8, I was in maybe the third grade. Yes, I think I was in the third grade. And I was 7 or 8 years old. And my mother came to pick us up. And I thought that was strange. And I thought it was also strange that my other siblings came to pick me up as well. But they came to pick us up, and we were all holding hands as we were walking home from school. But we never done that before. In fact, to this day, I don't recall ever holding my brother's hands. So I thought it was odd. But on this particular street, cars were known to speed down because there was no stop sign. So they were known to speed down until the light. And we were crossing the street, and we were all transcending from the street, and I was still in the middle of the street. And the next thing I know, I was hit by a station wagon and unconscious. So neighbors had gathered, and this is what I intel from what the neighbors have said, was that she had run over me from the first tire, and the second tire I was still pinned under, so she had to stop. She got out of the car, and she was in full nurse uniform, and dragged me out from under the car and left me on the street. And then the other neighbors put me on the sidewalk. So when they put me on the sidewalk, that's when the police and the firemen and everybody started to come. But she got in her car and drove away. And apparently she was late to go to work at the same facility that my mother worked at. And that's what I come to later find out. Now, as a grown man, I know this. My mother had her run me down to try to kill me. She tried to kill me. And my mother ended up taking most of the settlement and giving portions of the settlement to release the woman who left me there on the street and the scene of an accident out on bail and gotten away with essentially her charges. And my mother gave her money to try to kill me. I'm going on because I'm going to keep proving what she had done to me. I used to fight my dog King for food because he would get more food than I would get food. And that grew a bond between me and King. And King loved me, and I loved him because he was the only one who actually did love me. And when I was stuck, left inside this room that my mother had me in, he was the only one there. And we got evicted one day, and King had to come with us to her grandmother's house to spend the night or figure out what we were going to do because we got evicted. Now, I didn't understand how we got evicted if my mother was actively working, or so I thought. And we got evicted, and We had to stay at grandma's house, but the dog would not stop barking. So I went outside and I tried to console him, and I went back inside, and he still kept barking because you have to understand he was in a new environment and he was also very lonely. That's one thing I come to find my relationship with pets is because I suffer the same type of abuse and torture that they do, and so there's that connection there. And I stayed outside with him the entire night. But when I woke up, I was inside the house and he was gone. And I wondered where he went or what happened and why he was gone. We eventually moved into a shelter, but the dog didn't have to leave, you know? I like he could have stayed at grandma's house. My mother had put him to sleep, but she had been planning on putting him to sleep for some time, but needed a very valid reason to put him to sleep because I was now smart enough to understand things, and understand logic. And so she needed a reason to put him to sleep. And she hated my relationship with him because it wasn't addressed to her. She demanded the attention. And yet, whenever I tried to give you attention or love and affection, you still kept me inside this room. You kept me inside this room. So I was inside this room and I keep getting this affection from her. Then she refuses it because she watches all my children. I'm proving to her with blood on my hands. I broke my hand. Like I needed 5 stitches on my hand with King, and she refused to take me to the hospital. And she's an RN. I had to go to a neighbor, and a neighbor take me to the hospital. I went through 3 different towels of blood, and she refused to open the door from the bathroom because she was taking a bath. It really is horrific. There was another time my brother hit me with a red wagon, and I needed stitches, and she refused to take me to the hospital and treat the wound, and I ended up having to go to a neighbor. Constantly being beat up and harassed and ridiculed at home and in school. I had no place to go or really no identity because I really didn't exist. And I was stuck. I had no place to go. And my mother kept trying and trying to kill me. There were times when a knife would end up flying, because she would get angry or have an outburst over something stupid and a knife would go flying and it would end up toward me. There was another time where she hired drug dealers. My mother hired drug dealers to actually shoot from outside into my window. They would shoot in the air. As they were shooting in the air, I went to the window and I looked, and they saw me looking through the window and they started firing into the window. And a bullet missed me by maybe a half an inch to an inch. Maybe, yes, yeah, a half an inch to an inch, maybe 2 inches from my head. And she tried to have me killed. The food was horrible, and I was constantly hungry and begging for food, so she stopped providing food for me. It just, like I said, I would fight King, and over and over and over. My relationship with King was not defined by my relationship with my mother. My mother had to be the center of attention. My mother had to be given all this praise, and for what? Was not deserving of anything, let alone being a mother. I was horrified at the fact that she gave birth to me. I There was another time when So I didn't find out till I was 30 years old that my mother put him to sleep. And the reason why she put him to sleep was because she was jealous of my relationship with King. And that just I was at a loss for words like I am now. I can't believe a mother would do that to their own child. I, I've never seen Santa Claus. I've never been to see Santa Claus or sit on his lap. In fact, I've never received Christmas gifts from my mother or birthday gifts. Whenever a birthday cake would come out, it would always say Happy Birthday Kim, and it would never say Happy Birthday Kenny. How was I supposed to celebrate life and my birth if you don't even put my name on a cake? And then I was always allowed that little piece, but needed that little piece because my mother deprived me of candy. Candy. And food in general. I would go hungry most days. In fact, people still were amazed by the fact that I can go 8 days without, eating. I can go longer than that. I can fast for 40 days very easily because I'm used to it and my body is used to it. This is the reason why I'm telling you these stories and what my mother has done to me. Because your mother is the matriarch of the family. She has to make all the decisions. She molds and shapes you to the person you are. And I question that person today. Who am I? My name is Kenny Cruz, but is Kenny Cruz Kenny Cruz? There's more to come on my mother. You don't want to miss it. She is a bitch.